Hey guys, it's the ASMR Sailor here, and today I'm going to do the history of the colonisation of Australia. If you're wondering why I'm speaking like this, it's a little thing called ASMR. I'll put a link in the description to a site that explains it quite well. But let's get into it. So the colonisation of Australia. The first site I've gone to is from the Australian government, and so the facts should be pretty correct, hopefully. But the first records of European mariners sailing into Australian waters occurs around 1606, and it's from a Dutchman called William Jaszoon. Sorry about the mispronunciation, but he was the first one to chart the Australian coast and to meet with the Aboriginal people. Between 1606 and 1770, about 54 European ships from a range of nations made contact with Australia, or what is now called Australia. And a lot of these were merchant ships, and one of the captains was called Abel Tasman, and Tasman charted parts of the north, west and south coast of Australia, or modern day Australia. In 1706, an English captain called James Cook charted the east coast of Australia in his ship, the Endeavour. And he claimed the east coast for England under the rule of King George III in 1770. And he names the eastern part of Australia New South Wales. Scrolling down a little bit. So from then to when Australia really first started to get colonised, and it's probably a good time to mention that Australia was actually inhabited by who we call the Aboriginals, well before the Europeans came to Australia, and they are the traditional owners of the land. They're an amazing culture when you get to really go into it, but this video is meant to be like when the Europeans discovered Australia. So let's just get going. So Captain Arthur Phillip led the first fleet, and had 11 ships and around 1,300 people. Got to Botany Bay, which is in New South Wales, just south of Sydney, in 1788, and this area was deemed to be unsuitable for settlement, so they moved north to Port Jackson on the 26th of January, landing at Camp Grove Cove. And then Governor Phillip, or Captain Phillip, carried instructions to establish the first British colony in Australia. The first fleet was unprepared for the task, and the soil around Sydney Cove was poor. The young colony relied upon both the development of farms around Parramatta, about 25 kilometres upstream to the west, and also trading food with the local Aboriginal clans. The second fleet arrived in 1790 and provided badly needed food supplies. However, the newly arrived convicts were too ill, with many near to death, to be useful to the colony. The second colony was known as the Death Fleet. 278 of the convicts and crew died on the voyage to Australia, compared with only 48 on the first fleet. And there were also many more men to women, around 4 men for every woman, which caused problems in the settlement for many years. We'll just go down a little bit to the establishment of the different states, or what now we call the states. or different territories within Australia. So Van Diemen's Land, or what's now called as Tasmania, the little island to the south of Australia, it was the first British settlement on the island was made in 1803 when a Lieutenant Bowen landed with about 50 settlers, crew and soldiers and convicts. The site was abandoned in 1804, and Lieutenant Collins established a settlement in Hobart, which is now the capital of Tasmania. And the colony of Van Diemen's Land was established in its own right in 1825 and officially became known as Tasmania in 1856. Western Australia, very original name, is on the west coast of Australia, and it was established in 1827 under a Major Lockyer. And he established a settlement around Albany, and in 1829 the new Swan River colony was officially proclaimed. Captain Stirling was its first governor. The colony was proclaimed a British penal settlement in 1849, and the first convicts arrived in 1850. And sorry if you can hear other people talking in the background. My roommates, or flatmates, if you want to call them, are in the building. So South Australia is established in 1836, and in 1842 it became a Crown colony. I'm not too sure what a Crown colony means, but hopefully we find out. South Australia was never a British convict colony. Oh, that's probably what it means. Although a number of ex-convicts settled there from other colonies. Around 38,000 immigrants had arrived and settled in the area by 1850. Victoria. The first attempt at settlement was made in 1803 by Lieutenant Collins, but the harsh conditions forced him to move on to Tasmania, where he eventually settled in Hobart. It was not until the Henty brothers landed in Portland Bay in 1834 and John Batman settled on the site of Melbourne that the Port Phillip district was officially sanctioned in 1837. The first immigrant ships arrived at Port Phillip in 1839. In 1851, Victoria, or Port Phillip district, separated from New South Wales. Now Queensland. Queensland is the best state in the whole of Australia. The best weather, just the best people, just everything. I'm originally from Queensland myself, so it's a little bit biased, but you know. So in 1824, there was a penal colony at Redcliffe, and it was established by Lieutenant Oxley. It later moved to a site now called Brisbane, which is the capital city of Queensland, but not Australia, just Queensland. Around 2,200 convicts were sent to the settlement between 1824 and 1839. The first free European settlers moved to the district in 1838, and others followed in 1840. In 1859, Queensland separated from New South Wales. Now, if you think about it, it's actually not that long ago. That's 175 years ago. Well, this year. So it's not that long, really. That's only a couple of generations. So when you think about it, Australia's really not that old. Just something to think about. The Northern Territory is another really good state, or territory I should say. In 1825, the area occupied today by Northern Territory was part of New South Wales. It was the first settlement. It was first settled by Europeans in 1824 at Fort Dundas, Port Essington. In 1863, control of the area was given to South Australia, its capital city. Darwin was established in 1869 and was originally known as Palmerston. Now Darwin is really interesting itself. A lot of that happened in World War II, but I'll probably save that to another video. It's an interesting story in Darwin, and it's a really nice city as well. On the 1st January 1911, the Northern Territory was separated from South Australia and became part of the Commonwealth of Australia. Now, recognition of Australia was first suggested by Matthew Flinders. And interesting story about Matthew Flinders is he actually discovered the area I grew up in. Really interesting story about that. And he was supported by the Governor, Macquarie. At a meeting in 1899, the premiers of the other colonies agreed to locate the new federal capital of Australia in New South Wales, and added this section to the Australian Constitution. In 1909, the state of New South Wales surrendered a portion of its territory to the Commonwealth of Australia, and a site present-day Canberra. So Canberra is the capital of Australia, which majority of Australians know. I haven't come across one that doesn't know. But a lot of people from other countries think the capital of Australia is either Sydney or Melbourne or whatnot, but it's actually Canberra, and it's just to the south of New South Wales and inland a fair bit. So it's quite an interesting location for the capital of Australia as well. That's about it. A little bit about Australia Day. Let's have a little bit about that. So, on the 26th of January each year, we celebrate Australia Day because it was it was 26th of January was when the English colonisation first happened in 1818. And we became Australia. We became federated in 1901 with its 6 colonies. And from 1994, all states and territories agreed to celebrate Australia Day on the actual day, because apparently we didn't beforehand. How long's this video gone for so far? It's gone for about 13 and a half minutes, so let's we'll probably cut it there. Oh, sorry about that. I'll probably cut it there for this video, and leave your comments below about what you think my next video should be about, and any suggestions you have. But I'd like to thank you for watching this video if you've made it to the end, and just if you feel like it, pop us a like. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.